Alright, so now it's time for the episode that pretty much all of you saw ahead of time about Fluttershy finally venturing out on Nightmare Night. So yeah, what all of you think of this episode has probably been long since established. But, from a critic first and a fan second, here's the second opinion. Now, one thing I have to give this episode credit for is the way it captures the mentality of people whose imaginations are running away with them.
Please tell me my hiding place is ready. Oh, look, you filled it with everything I need to survive this awful night.
That image actually does seem sort of comforting and secure. You probably wouldn't be very safe there if it were a horror movie, but just feeling like you're in your own private space with all the stuff you could want has a way of shutting out uncomfortable thoughts. But then, of course, we get to Fluttershy out and about, where her imagination starts making her fear things far worse than anything that could actually be out there.
And what's that crunching sound beneath your hooves? Maybe it's the bones of ponies that didn't make it out alive.
That line was so awesome. Actually, speaking of that moment, I can't remember if Granny Smith and Fluttershy ever even had a direct conversation on screen before this one, and even that's enough to help this feel fresh. Sometimes moments feel a little more real when not coming from the first character you'd expect. In fact, there's another one of those in here when Spike of all characters tells Fluttershy how much everyone would love it if she joined them. It's one of those sweet little understated moments that really registers.
What if you stayed out a little longer with your friends? I know they'd be super excited.
You think so?
You would make them so happy if you joined in. They wouldn't believe their eyes.
In fact, despite this being the second Nightmare Night episode, this approach turns it into more of a spiritual sequel to Philly Vanilli, asking whether Nightmare Night is yet another thing that Fluttershy can come to enjoy if she tries it. And I also liked Twilight's attempt to help Fluttershy stop being scared by suggesting she, Fluttershy, do the scaring. Even if Fluttershy's first attempt earns a very affectionate facepalm.
Pass the sugar. Oh no, there is none. You're a terrible host.
If the first half of the episode deals with Halloween as we imagine it to be, the second half is what it actually is, from the outside looking in. As in, kinda gimmicky. And maybe that was the point, but either way, the story definitely loses some momentum there. The corn maze they built us up for doesn't turn out to be much more than what they already told us it would be, and the payoff from there feels very expected, right down to the reappearance of the Flutterbat. It's not particularly tense, or funny, or exciting, or even that visually striking. Except for everyone getting caught in the spider web while the monster's coming after them. That's a pretty good 1-2 punch. Even if the solution is pretty obvious. Actually, I honestly thought the Scary Tea Party had more potential, at least on a visual level.
Welcome to Fluttershy's tea party.
But, even though the delivery was so deliberate that there's not even much I can add, yes, the moral here was pretty good. And a good counterpoint to Philly Vanilli that's also valid.
It's no fun for me to see my friends feel like they're in danger, even if I know they're not. We do lots of fun things together, but I'm afraid this just isn't gonna be one of them.
And it still turns out to be a good thing this happened, because now Fluttershy knows that she's making the right call for the right reasons, not just because she hasn't overcome her fear, which she has.
Actually, I'm not afraid. I'm perfectly fine with it.
Then we are too.
In fact, credit where it's due, there does seem to be a thematic arc here. In the beginning, Fluttershy's taking solace in childlike activities because she's afraid of the world beyond. But when she stumbles out into it, she winds up in the middle of more teenage-level activities. But when she can't keep up there, in her own words,
I've been taking baby steps. I think it's time for grown-up ones.
And lo, she surpasses the best that Applejack, Big Mac, and Granny Smith have to offer. But finally, in the end, she returns to her childlike comforts, not because she still needs them, but because they're what she enjoys most. I wonder who in the audience could relate to that. So actually, this is a lot like what I said about Tanks for the Memories. Great first half, just adequate second half, nice payoff. Except where that seemed like a first-rate, full-speed-ahead story from the get-go that just did most of what it wanted to do in the first half and then used a filler portion to fill it out, this one plays like it's getting there, but then just tapers off and settles for where it is. As much as taking Fluttershy off screen before the climax might seem necessary, so we can pretend not to know it's just her, I actually think it hurt the momentum of her story. It might have been better if we saw Fluttershy's hand in it, so to speak, as it was happening, to really appreciate the twisted cleverness and the manipulation behind it. Or at very least pick up the pace, because it all just seemed a little too methodical. It is a pretty good episode, and probably the best one in nearly a month. It just didn't bowl me over like my favorite episodes of the season. But still, it shows Natasha Levinger continuing to hit her stride and growing into one of the show's better writers. Actually, how about this? The most consistently good writers this season aren't the veterans or the newbies, but the Scott Cinnaborns and the Natasha Levingers. Perfect balance of fresh and experienced, I guess. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. If you didn't, send me Fluttershy's advice on how to make it scarier, and if you'd like to watch another video in this series, click the link on the right. Otherwise, just check the description for more links, and I'll see you next time.